Author Rick Riordan once said, "Fairness does not mean everyone gets the same. Fairness means everyone gets what they need." Everyone needs ethical treatment, transparency, and honesty. Fair Employment Agency strives to be an ethical recruitment agency that matches foreign domestic workers with jobs in Hong Kong. Scott Stiles, the co-founder, is aiming to turn the recruitment system around to eradicate exploitive business practices. Good morning. I am Catherine, and my teammates are Fong, Anne, and Lynn. And we, as One Stone consultants, proudly representing Ritsumeikan Asia Pacific University in Japan, are here to assist FEA to ethically move forward and become a game changer in Hong Kong's recruitment agency sector. Next slide, please. Today, we will begin with our executive summary and walk you through our analysis, strategies, and financials to showcase the impact Fair Employment Agency can have. Next, please. Through exemplary business ethics, FEA's mission is to develop ethical solutions to put a stop to the forced labor of migrant workers. Currently, illegal fees, forced labor, and human trafficking are plaguing the industry. However, FEA's business model of eliminating the middleman and cultivating trust and transparency is successful, as over 70% of potential employers will pay a significant premium to hire someone without the risk of debt bondage. In order to make a positive impact and disrupt unethical practices in the recruitment industry, FEA wants to increase their impact by scaling up their business model. Next slide, please. What does the foreign domestic industry in Hong Kong look like? And what is the demand? Out of all the domestic workers in Hong Kong, 98% are females, primarily coming from the Philippines or Indonesia. In Hong Kong, domestic workers have grown to become pivotal since the 1980s, as middle-class women have been relying on domestic help in order to further their own education and careers. Currently, there are over 400,000 migrant workers in Hong Kong, and this number is expected to climb to 600,000 in roughly 20 years, in part due to the rising elderly population seeking caretakers. Let's imagine a case with Mrs. Jasmine. Mrs. Jasmine, born and raised in the Philippines, is seeking work abroad to find a better opportunity to earn money. Next slide, please. Jasmine is concerned because she has read a recent study that says about 70% of recruitment agencies in Hong Kong take part in illegal behavior. She read about labor violations where as many as 1 in 6 workers can be forced to work over 17 hours a day without a day off. She is also afraid of the possibility of human trafficking and experiencing verbal, sexual, and physical abuse. Additionally, Jasmine is worried about illegal recruitment fees and her salary being withheld. Furthermore, she is aware that agencies in Hong Kong can confiscate her personal documents, such as her passport, for collateral regarding debt bondage. Next slide, please. However, Jasmine can have peace of mind if she turns to FEA for her job placement. FEA will not charge any job placement fees, and she needs not worry about any hidden fees that may be added along the way. FEA is a nonprofit social business. Therefore, being exempt from tax allows the company to redirect money back into their business to expand their initiatives, as well as exemplify that they are not profit hungry. Moreover, Jasmine can have a better customer experience through technology, as she will be better matched with her job at a faster pace, as other recruitment agencies are still reliant on paper-based methods. Next slide, please. Let's take a look at both the industry and company problem. Fair Employment Agency wants to better the industry problem of exploitation and debt bondage to help Jasmine and others just like her. However, in order to match others with jobs ethically and turn the industry around, FEA must scale up their business within Hong Kong and abroad to change the nature of unethical recruitment agencies. Now my colleague Anne will delve into our strategies.
Before going to our main strategy, I would like to introduce you to the alternative strategies that we have thought about but did not choose due to the following drawbacks. First of all is expanding into construction. The problems that comes with this is the lack of housing solution for migrant workers, and in the future there will be a growing automation which will decrease the demand for workers in this sector. Similarly, when expanding into manufacturing industry, there will also be a lack of housing for migrant workers, and less importance will be placed on the manufacturing industry. And more will be placed on the banking and service industry. Another alternative strategy is opening a new branch in Hong Kong. However, there are already two branches, and it would take more time to scale up. Another strategy is opening a franchises, and this will take a longer time to spend than a partnership, and there will also be a risk of a franchisee not following our ethical standard. Next slide, please. So therefore, in order to help FEA spread its impacts wider and deeper, we propose this strategy for FEA to expand horizontally and vertically. In our horizontal expansion strategy, there will be the Resonate program, which include partnering with overseas sending agencies in Philippines and offer mentorships for overseas agency. In our vertical expansion strategy, first of all, we advise that FEA have a tiered service structure, starting with domestic worker and focusing on elderly care. And in the midterm and long term, we suggest that FEA expand into the hospitality industry, and this hospitality service will also be included in our tiered service structure. Next slide, please. So first, let me walk you through our horizontal expansion strategy. We have two objectives here. The first one is to scale up the business into other Asian countries and elevate the standard for the standing agencies in foreign countries. Next slide, please. Here is our Resonate program. In this program, Honest Jobs will partners with employment agency in the Philippines, and Honest Job will provide know-how and monitor the partners. The partners will report back to Honest Job. The partners in the Philippines will have to operate in FEA standards, which include transparency in pricing, no placement fee, direct contact with the workers, and incorporating technology in their operation. These partners will send their workers to FEA in Hong Kong or other employment agencies in Hong Kong. Our partners in the Philippines will work with other employment agency in a joint liability approach. Do you still remember Mrs. Jasmine, who we mentioned earlier? And Mrs. Jasmine is still looking for a job. Mrs. Jasmine lives far away from Honest Job, but now that one of the employment agency that is closer to our house became a partner of Honest Job, Mrs. Jasmine can go to this agency and receive help in various processes, such as training, doing the paperwork, and most importantly, finding a match of employer in Hong Kong. Therefore, although Mrs. Jasmine lives far away from Honest Jobs, this move has helped her to find a domestic worker job in Hong Kong right from her local area. And when working abroad, she is safe and protected thanks to FEA in Hong Kong. Next slide, please. So the second point in our Resonate program is that Honest Job will provide mentorships for overseas agencies in Indonesia, Malaysia, and also Philippines. There will be seminars by Fair Employment Foundation on ethical and legal issues, and also about how to incorporate technology in the operation. Next, my colleagues Zoe will walk you through our vertical expansion strategy.
So thanks to FEA horizontal program, Mrs. Jasmine from the Philippines could easily and safely find a job as a domestic worker in Hong Kong with the support of our agency partner. 3 years later, she recommended the service to her friend in the Philippines, Miss Rose. However, Miss Rose doesn't want a job as a domestic worker, but rather one in the hospitality sector, as she had experience working at hotel housekeeper before. So in order to cater to the needs of those people like Miss Rose and also meet the demand of Hong Kong growing economy, FEA would also expand vertically. Our main objective is to diversify business operation and increase profit for further development of the company. In order to realize the objective, we have proposed two main strategies: expand into hospitality sector in Hong Kong, and also provide a Thai service structure for domestic workers in elderly and hospitality. Next slide, please. So the first strategy is to penetrate into the Hong Kong hospitality sector. So why hospitality? First, this industry is labor intensive. From the statistic, 79% of current accommodation in Hong Kong is mid and upper mid-scale hotel, which require huge number of staff. But at the same time, it do not require too much professional like the luxury one. Second, many hotels in Hong Kong do provide accommodation for their staff, helping us to solve the problem of housing. And last but not least, the hospitality industry in Hong Kong is on the rise after the pandemic. So with the compound average growth rate between 2021 and 2029 expected to reach 19.6%, as well as the occupancy rate will be 66% in 2025. So currently, due to the pandemic, the hospitality sector in Hong Kong has suffered a lot. However, we aim to adopt this strategy from the midterm, meaning that 3 years from now on, and when the pandemic is under control with higher vaccination rate worldwide, the Fair Training Center will also provide intensive training for migrant workers like Ms. Rose with professional skill of room cleaning, room service, and kitchen work. With this move, FEA will not only deal with individual employers, but also hope to expand to B2B sector because they're gonna deal with more hotel and restaurant in the future. Next slide, please. The second strategy within the vertical expansion will be provide a Thai service structure with two price model. One for middle market with competitive pricing, and we already have at the moment. And second is premium market with value-based pricing. So for premium market, we have two main markets: the domestic worker for elderly care in the short term, and hospitality market from the midterm as soon as we penetrate into hospitality industry in Hong Kong. So over 70% of employers willing to pay higher price for better quality. That's why we still can maintain high number of customers looking for our service. Also, since Hong Kong is facing aging population, demand for elderly care domestic worker will be increasing. For hospitality market, lower skill job will apply middle market pricing, while more skill demand job will be for the premium market. And FEA will be the one who train the migrant workers. We will provide training on a regular basis so that workers are always ready for jobs. Next slide, please. So since FEA is still a non-profit social business, our vision is to create significant impacts. From the social perspective, our expansion with more partnership and mentorship can set example for other agencies of how business can be both profitable and ethical at the same time. Also, we aim to obtain the scalability of 5 new partners from the sending side per year. Currently, there are more than 300 agencies in Philippines. However, in order to monitor them effectively, we aim to start small with 5 for partnership and 10 for mentorship. For mentorship, we will not only aim at Philippines, but also other nations such as Malaysia, Indonesia, where a lot of domestic workers are coming from. Through that, we would like to scale up with an increase of 500 workers employed ethically for years and 50% increase from the year 2 onwards. From the economic point of view, our strategy will add value to current stakeholders. Well-trained and well-matched workers will lead to fewer termination, saving money for new recruitment process for employers. Also, they're gonna reduce the labor cost for other partner agencies because we're gonna introduce technology into normal paperwork. And now my colleague Ling will clarify the timeline of the strategy.
Next, I'm going to explain about the execution timeline. to demonstrate how our strategies can be implemented in the short, mid, and long term. First of all, the Resonate program, which is FEA's horizontal expansion move. The partnership and mentorship programs in the Philippines, Malaysia, Indonesia, and so on should be carried out as soon as possible to build an ecosystem of sustainable employment agencies in the long run. And in terms of their vertical expansion, we believe that FEA can penetrate into the hospitality sector from the midterm year 2024 onwards to avoid the possible risks associated with the COVID-19 pandemic. And in the meantime, the tiered service structure can be implemented in the domestic worker market from 2021 and for the hospitality sector from 2024 when FEA started working in this business. And we've also looked into some of the main financial impacts from carrying out our strategies. First of all, the horizontal expansion, which is the Resonate program, though there can be a 15% increase in salaries and wages expense and the cost of marketing, FEA can expect an overall revenue growth of 20% from the partnerships and expansion. And regarding the vertical expansion, Similarly, they have to take into consideration the marketing cost of the new business operation. However, the incorporation of the premium pricing strategy, which is 30% higher, can generate more profits to be reinvested into improving their technology, providing more intensive trainings, as well as adding incentives for the staff. Nevertheless, there can still be some key risks that FEA have to take into account during their operation process. First of all, is the health risks associated with the COVID-19 pandemic, which can hinder the arrival of the workers in Hong Kong. We suggest that FEA comply with the strict governmental regulations on testing, quarantine, and vaccinations in the short term. And secondly, a more impactful risk, which is the operational risk when they start to cooperate with their partners. We suggest that FEA only partner with those agencies who are transparent, who would comply with their standards and use the technologies to improve their efficiency and enable us to monitor within the ecosystem. And thirdly, the most impactful and likely risk is that partners may still not abide by the ethics. We suggest that all partners involved need to take part in the joint and solidarity liability approach to be responsible for every part of the way of both the worker and the employer. In conclusion, to cope with the industry problem of the systemic unethical practices and the company problem of expanding their scope of operation, we suggest that FEA make both horizontal and vertical expansion moves to bring back both social and economic impacts to recycle and further upgrade their technologies and bring back more values for all of the stakeholders involved. And one day they can achieve their final mission of successfully transforming this complex industry and help more people like Mrs. Jasmine, Miss Rose, and the employers that employ them in the long run as a joint effort. If we want others to rely on our justice and fairness, then we have to show that we can also rely on their justice and fairness. And that is the end of our presentation. Thank you for listening, and we're open to Q&A.
Okay, thank you for your presentation. It's now time for the Q&A session.
Okay, hi, I guess I can start first. So thank you very much, team. Very good control of timing, and congratulations. A very clear presentation, and I'm attracted by the presentation throughout. So very well done, team. So I actually have two questions for now. So number one is that in terms of the sources of the income, because as you proposed, the vertical one cannot go ahead right now. So have the team thought of other sources of income in order to expand the company in a more immediately like more immediately now? That's the first question. Second question is that in terms of the vertical expansion, I understand that you've already factored in that the COVID situation may linger, but there is a chance that we now know in terms of the new normal, we don't know how the hospitality sector will become in Hong Kong. So have the team actually thought about other backup options in terms of the expansion plan for the FEA besides the hospitality sector one? Thank you.
Thank you so much for the question. So I would like to first address the first part of your question, which is the immediate response. So as we already mentioned, for the Thai service structure, it will be from as soon as possible. So for the Thai service structures, it will be divided into two parts. The first one will be for elderly care, and that will be it will be adopted as soon as possible. That's why the income we supposed to be increasing as soon as possible. And that leads to the second question of the hospitality potential. So for the potential of hospitality, that will be adopted from the midterm, which means 3 years after this. And thus we did have consider a lot of risk regarding the COVID-19 and the new normal. So because currently, like Hong Kong tourism is highly depending on international tourists, which means that the COVID have impacted a lot on their tourism performance. And within the for 3 years, according to our research and statistics, the new normal will also affect Hong Kong. But because Hong Kong is a real a hub for service and financial, meaning that the business tourism will be never replaced. It will just keep growing. There will be more and more businessmen coming to Hong Kong. And that's why the demand for accommodation and hotel, no matter what, will be keep increasing or at least maintained. That's why we believe that from the midterm, even when the new normal is applied, there are still chances for the hospitality in Hong Kong to expand, and the need for workers, migrant workers, will be maintained. I hope that my answer responds to your question.
Okay, just a very quick follow-up. So in terms of the tiered pricing that you proposed, then what's the tiering that you have been thinking of? Like, what's the premium that you plan to charge on top of the normal pricing that you're already, which I think you from the brief you will know is around 10,000 Hong Kong dollars for per placement. So what's the tier pricing that you're looking to charge?
Thank you for your question. So as you can see here, our premium pricing is expected to be 30% higher than our middle market competitive-based pricing to accommodate the demand for high quality services from the majority of the employers from our research.
Okay, so basically it's just a normal tier pricing and then the other tier will be 30% higher.
Yes.
Okay, understood. I'm good for now. I'll pass to the other two judges. Thanks.
Thank you, Mimi. I might go next. So the idea for especially for long term to propose the company step into a brand new industry is a very creative thought. It won't be an easy move for FEA. So what risks have you considered for FEA to step into hospitality industry, and how easy or how hard it is? The second one will be what kind of investment you believe that will require for them to get into a brand new industry. Perhaps they don't have much expertise, and how will this move shape the company's future from a strategic way? Does that going to align with the original objective the company was set up, or that will need to change into a way, there will be a new objective this company's existence and to operate based on? That will be the questions from me.
Thank you so much for the question. Again, I will address the first part of the question. What are the risks that might occur during our expansion into hospitality? One of the risks that is very common and we definitely put into consideration is the risk of automation. So nowadays, like hospitality industry and also other industry, there will be more and more AI control robots will take charge of a lot of our human force, and that is for sure. However, regarding the hospitality industry, the automation will only be occur partially, and that is according to our research as well. So because the migrant worker, we're gonna train them regarding the room cleaning, room service, and kitchen work, not reception or other, which means that the labor force is still very important. And also, one reason why we choose hospitality in Hong Kong is because we want to target mid and mid-scale hotel, which means that they don't have a lot of budget for automation. That's why there are 79% of them that we can rely on for the demands of labor force worker. And I hope that is how we mitigate the risk of automation. And of course, regarding the second one, which means investment, investment will be one of our problem from since the day we established this company. And of course, it is the non-profit social business. That's why the investment from government and other investors will be much appreciated. And because Hong Kong is rely heavily on tourism, we hope and we expect that the government will sponsor and have investment on us for expanding to the whole industry of hospitality. And it leads to the third question of whether we still comply with our own initial objective. So the answer for this is yes, because the reason why we choose hospitality is because the main reason for our company is to expand Asia, not just stop at Hong Kong. And why? Because we choose Asia, the whole Asia, and that's why we choose tourism, hospitality, because that is the main driving force of economy in many countries in Asia. That's why we want to start from Hong Kong, expanding into the hospitality sector of Hong Kong and gaining experience, as well as we have training experience and managing the human force experience. That's why it's easier for us to expand into other nations within Asia and create a sustainable ecosystem of FEA within Asia, which is the main initial vision of our company since the day of establishment. I hope that it answers your question well.
Okay, thank you.
A couple of questions from me. Thank you very much for the presentation. We throughoutly enjoyed. So I think Mimi also touched based on this. It's uncertain on how the hospitality sector will look like post COVID-19. So did you factor in any additional cost in your benefit analysis for the eventuality that the hospitality sector will actually shrink post COVID-19?
Thank you for your question. I think my colleagues so far has explained enough about the potential of the hospitality sector in Hong Kong bouncing back after the COVID-19 sector, though we know that it's very uncertain since we'll be starting from the midterm onwards. But we believe that from our research, there's a shortage of labor in Hong Kong, and which is due to the aging population, as well as the fact that a developed economy would look for a less labor intensive employing opportunity, and so there is less workers in the more labor intensive jobs. And so we believe that this can be an opportunity for the migrant worker to come to Hong Kong and fill this gap. And therefore, with that in mind, we have this we have come up with this expected overall revenue growth.
Okay,
And,
thank you. And on what basis are you charging the tiered structure? So if I'm an employer, so what would you give me additional for me to pay more?
So thank you for your question. I would like to address this question. So it is outlined in the case that 70% of the employers are willing to pay higher for a better service. And in return for this 30% increase in the price, we would like to provide more training, intensive trainings, so that we can upgrade the skills of the migrant workers. And also, we are focusing on the elderly care and their in the hospitality industry for this premium pricing. So we believe that with all the trainings that we provide to them, that would answer to the increase in the price.
I can add on to what my colleague just said. So what about the benefit? So as you know that the pandemics have put a lot of burden on healthcare system in the world and including Hong Kong. That's why regarding the aging population, we're gonna charge higher price with the benefits of the employer will get. It means we got the professional healthcare caring system for elderly. If you're elderly in the house, maybe got some kind of disease that don't necessarily to go to hospital because of the burden of the hospital system and want to stay at home, we still can care for that, and we have professional training for that. That's why that will be the premium market. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I were to go back to your slide on the financials, why is 20% the right number and not 30% or 15% expected growth?
Thank you for your question. So in the presentation, I've mentioned that this overall increase in revenue growth is from their partnership and expansion. And the revenue that we get from the partnership is only to cover for the salaries and wages expense to have our employees monitor their operations, and to cover for the technology costs that we provide to them. And we don't take any of their profits. And therefore, most of the revenue would be coming from our expansion. And therefore, we settled that 20% would be a reasonable increase. And we would like to clarify that this is only a short-term financial projection. And in the long term, as we develop more, we make more partnership and expand more within the hospitality sector, then this figure will continue to grow in the future.
Thank you. And I think you have also a slide on the implementation timeline. And I believe that you mentioned that implementation of your horizontal strategies as soon as possible. Did you consider that you may need a bit of time to identify the partner, the countries, the cities, rather than kind of having to implement without the proper kind of background check on who will you be working with and what your expectations will be?
Okay, thank you for your question. The strategy that we have in mind is that right now we should expand horizontally fast. So we would start right now, and the number of partnership that we expect to have within the first year is 5 partnership and 10 mentorship with other employment agency. We believe that this number is moderate enough to give us more time to do background check and to see if that partner is a good fit for us.
Okay, thank you all. Okay, now the judges will stay in the room to deliberate. Students, we will place you back to the waiting room and bring you back for the feedback session in a few minutes.